we have often misunderstood the importance of the automotive sector because we often focused on manufacturing of new cars, which is critical to our economy. Let's never forget the auto care. It's a wide employer, 500,000 people in the sector. We're in all places across Canada. It's rural or urban. And so if you're looking for a rewarding career, you want to live in the city, you want to live in the rural areas, there are opportunities for this industry throughout. So I think it's a great sector to explore. And if you're looking for a new career, that's the place to go.
How can a set of skills lead you down the path to success? That's what we're setting out to answer on the EdUp Canada podcast. I'm your host, Michael Sangster. Join me as we unpack how leaders around the world have taken training and skills and turned that into a lasting career. Now let's learn together. Welcome back to the EdUp Canada podcast. I'm joined today by JF Champagne. I don't know if it's president and CEO, president. We have a lot of fun. We've all got these titles with AIA Canada. And JF, why don't you just jump right in, introduce yourself, and what does your organization do?
Absolutely, Michael. So again, I'm JF Champagne. I am the president and CEO. You're right. We all have different titles, but are leading the effort at the Automotive Industries Association of Canada. We're a trade association that represents the entire auto care sector. So everyone involved in the manufacturing of replacement part distribution, installations of replacement parts. So everything that comes after a car is sold. And very much to our conversations today, focus on advocacy, but very much also on ensuring that we're able to help people across the industry to get the skills they need to be able to fix the cars of today and for tomorrow.
You have some of your own training programs too.
That's right. So various approach to training. One has been a partnership that's worked very well for us with a sister association in the US called ICAR, who has established some standards of training around collision repair. So think about how vehicles are built today. They're very different than they were 10, 15 years ago and requires more skills for people, specifically in collision repair. And we are the exclusive distribution agent of these programs in Canada, training thousands of technicians every year to, again, give them new skills and make sure they keep their skills up to par for the challenges of fixing today's cars.
We're not driving 57 Chevys anymore. These are computers on wheels, aren't they?
That's right. The best image I always use is, imagine your old bumper. I'm old enough to remember, you would fix a bumper, just use a big hammer on the side of the bumper just to put it back straight. Now today it's a piece of plastic, and behind it are sensors, lidar, radar, computers. And so the skills needed, the tools needed, the techniques are dramatically different. And if you don't align these components properly, this may mean that the next time you're into an accident, there might not be the proper deployment of the airbag, as an example. So those are critical systems now that needs to be properly repaired.
Yeah, you want those things working well. They're a little dangerous if that airbag's not popping off at the right moment, the right instant, really, not the moment, right down to the millisecond.
That's right.
Hi, EdUp Canada listeners. I want to talk about one of our sponsors, Pearson Canada. Pearson is all about helping students, instructors, and institutions connect learning to real-life goals. Their Connected Learning program combines expert content, intuitive digital platforms, and study tools, including their newest AI study tool designed to support personalized, productive, and ethical learning experiences. I recently explored their AI study tool myself, and I was impressed by how it helps students and instructors use generative AI responsibly to boost study and exam prep. Educators across the country are seeing how Pearson's tools are enhancing their learning experience, helping students stay engaged, building confidence, and feeling more prepared for exams through their personalized support. If you want to see how Pearson's resources can support your institutions and students, visit pearson.com or email Sarah at sarah.zantig@pearsoned.com. That's sarah.zantingh@pearsoned.com. Pearson Canada, where learning comes to life. So talk to me about your issues these days. You mentioned advocacy. What are the biggest things that your members, your association's concerned about?
for us, obviously, is to make sure that we're going to continue to have access to the information, tools to be able to fix the cars. And that really is the grand theme around right to repair. It's ensuring the consumer's right to choose when you go to get the car fixed. And that once you choose to go to an independent repairer, they have, again, access to the tools, information needed to fix the car. That's a big debate, not just in automotive, that really goes across multiple industries. And that's a big focus of our advocacy. But also a big push, again, on the skilled trade. So we have, as an example, partner with the government of Ontario under the Skills Development Fund, partnering with colleges, and again, bringing new programs to not just upskill the workforce, but also provide ways to attract new people to our sector. Because, like many areas of skilled trade, we're faced with challenges in recruiting and retaining labor.
So I was just going to get into that. I was going to encourage you to listen to one of our episodes about 5 weeks ago with Dr. Joel English from Aviation Institute in the US. And they're actually filmed a documentary that's going to be released. They're just figuring out which platform it's going to come out on, but they're negotiating with the Netflix of the world around skilled trades and women and recruiting new workforce from a group of people that were, I think he said 4% of the Aviation Institute. But the average age of people maintaining airplanes is 56, I believe he said. So they don't have enough from one gender and they're aging out, and it's going to start affecting the aerospace and aviation sector in the US. So I would assume that's a very similar issue that you've got around skills training, recruitment, workforce development.
Fascinating to hear the stats, because in our sector, it's about 6% for women and 50 years and change for the average age of technicians. So the exact same problem is we have not been able to diversify the workforce, and with an aging population with not a lot of people coming in.
Yeah, that is a unique challenge that I shouldn't say unique. That is not a unique challenge right now. Unfortunately, we get it in healthcare, we get it in truck driving, we get it in cybersecurity. We need to find some solutions around this. So you talk about your partnerships with government. The Skills Development Fund has been a real boom, a very creative way to go out and do work. We've done some work with them as well. We call for collaboration between industry and government. We're going through our own Build Canada Strong program because we're trying to identify to people how many skilled trades people that are member colleges, are regulated career colleges train that go into the workforce. So what would you say real collaboration between industry and education looks like, and what's missing for your members?
So to your point, I think the initiatives by the government of Ontario is a very good starting point. We're now into our fourth phase of collaboration on that program, and each time seeing an improvement on the previous iteration. And it's really building a good working relationship between industry and the training colleges, identifying the right programs to deliver and have the right approach to recruitment for those programs. So I would say that this is exactly what we need. We don't need it just in Ontario. We need a very similar approach across the country. And we need to reach out to more colleges, quite frankly. Our first iteration was simply with one college, the St. Lawrence College in Cornwall. We've now grown to 4 colleges working with us. But it's to scale up. It's maybe the difficult aspect of what we're faced with. I would say that our challenge often is that we're constantly in this process of reapplying for funding. We've made representations. Spoke to the minister a couple of times, says we got to at least be able to secure 2 years funding as opposed to 1 year. It's a lot easier to engage colleges, recruit the right instructors, and have a good strategy when you know you have a longer term commitment. We've attracted great people in our team to work on these programs, but it's always 1 year at a time. And so there isn't a lot of strong commitment long term, even though we've been able to repeat that. So again, extending the durations of those commitment, extending the range of the number of colleges that we're reaching out, and take this framework and expand it to the rest of Canada, I think are the way we can make this even more successful.
Ontario's been ironically very progressive on doing some of these programs, and we've been incredibly supportive of the Ford government for some of the announcements and things they've done. I'm hoping from today's chat, some of our members, you may have a phone call problem. You may get too many calls from career colleges, because one of the things that our members are adept at doing, we call it investing and de-investing, because it's their own money, because they're private capital and they're putting into their operations, they're pretty good at ramping up. finding a need, seeing the need, proving the need. And in many cases, the regulators insist that before we start a program, they actually prove the job need and show the employers are lined up in the background, ready to hire the students when they graduate before we're allowed to proceed. But we're also really good at dropping out of programs when it's not working. We're moving on to the next thing. So I'm hoping, and I'm going to suggest your phone's probably going to ring from a few of our colleges that want to say, okay, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we tweak this program that we're doing? You're just not even aware of them in Ontario and other provinces. So hopefully we'll come from that. I'm out in BC today, and I'm looking forward to some conversations here on many of these issues with the government of BC. So
What I want to add to this, Michael, is when it comes down to the auto care sector, sometimes people don't realize the size of our industry. In Canada, we have a tendency to very focus on the manufacturing of new cars. It's an important sector of our economy. Is all of the manufacturers, mostly based in Southern Ontario, to be honest, in the assembly plant. It's a critical element of our economy. But it always says it's one half of the automotive industry. The auto care sector, our latest stat, working with Stats Canada and EY, shows there's 500,000 people employed in their sector. 500,000. There are more people employed in the auto care sector than there are in agriculture or natural resources. So it's interesting to see the size of this industry. And if you just think about any smaller remote areas of Canada, you'll drive through a town, there's a repair shop, there's a parts store, and those have been staples throughout Canada. So we are in every single municipalities in town and play a critical role. Back to your question, is there a need? Absolutely, there's a need. The number of vehicles on Canadian roads continue to grow, so we're going to need the people to fix them.
what's the gap? How many workers are you looking for? Do you know that right now?
I don't have it top of my head, but there was a growing number on the gap that we know in terms of technicians specifically. And that gap, the last time we looked at it, I'm going to guess was a few tens of thousands, rapidly accelerating for sure. And so that's the biggest concern.
As you said, the average age in mid-50s.
Yes, that's right. Part of our partnership with Ontario includes the Career Exploration Program. And so that one is really aimed at attracting new people who have never been exposed to our industry and give them some of the skills and interests to pursue. And we know, in fact, today, some of those graduates work now in the automotive sector, pursuing further educations to get more skills. So we know that's working. It's not just about upskilling, but it's also about the career exploration. So I think the program is working in that regard. We just need to do more.
Well, it's interesting you talk about the upskilling because that's not a traditional role of a national association, but it's obviously that crucial to you that you're focused on ensuring your members can keep reskilling, keep you updated. As I think about it, not being in your field, these cars are changing every day, right? And it ain't the same thing you're dealing with.
And you would think this would be very attractive to the younger generation. You're playing video games, you're thinking about computers. If there's one device next to your cell phone that's rapidly continuing to evolve, it's your car. It is a computer on wheel, a lot more technology. The drivetrain has now evolved from just your traditional internal combustion engines to EV, hybrid, hydrogens is probably coming. And so when you think about all these systems, unlike other trades, I'm not saying that other trades don't evolve, but we're definitely having a fast pace of change in terms of the technique, the tools, and the vehicles we're fixing.
I've got to think drywall doesn't change, but I've spent my career fixing vehicles, and now I'm looking at an EV. That is an incredible change in what you're maintaining or working on, is it not?
Absolutely. And where your typical, I'll use, changing wheels or brakes, which is a pretty typical mechanical type of repair. Now, for the most part, on a newer vehicle will require some form of calibration, the use of a computer, diagnostic tools, because again, all these systems are now interconnected as part of your safety system. So the very basics that are performed by mechanics now are very much moving into computerized work that requires new tools and skills.
So industry-led, association-led training measures is what you're undergoing in much of the upskilling.
Yep.
Is it doing enough? Do you need help?
We could always use help. The pace of change is definitely almost too fast. Faced with labor shortage, shops have tough decisions to make. The technician is not today working on a vehicle, going to an upskilling program means X number of vehicles are not being fixed. It's direct impact on revenue. So it's not just about the cost of upskilling. It's really about the cost of now lost opportunities of business because there isn't enough technicians to take over the role of the person going through upskilling. So Those are very hard costs on the business. And again, people are busy. And so those are all compounding. And trying to have the most efficient ways to upskill. Again, proximity is one, flexibility in content delivery, scheduling, all of these plays, and be able to provide the services to a wide variety of enterprises, because you have your typical small independent local repair shop to much larger business entities that are operating as networks who look for a different approach to their upskilling needs.
Complete pivot in a different direction. Maybe it's not a fit, but you've also got private sector employers, which is very similar to my membership. They're all privately owned career colleges, but they've got other stresses in their lives too, and retraining and retraining. Like, I don't want to use the word tariff, but they've had a bit of a rocky road the last 6 months, and they've got a level of stress upon running their organizations too. So they do lean into you and others to get the training and the upskilling done because they don't have the time or the effort.
Yes and no. Some of our members are also very much focused on providing ongoing training. So, specifically, if you're, as an example, in parts distribution, a highly integrated business, highly sophisticated, to be able to make sure that when you pull your 2016 Honda Civic for a specific type of repair, the mechanic assessing the problem will say, I need XYZ part for that particular vehicle. And 20 minutes later, they have that part. And so you need a pretty complex system. And the success of selling you parts also includes ensuring that you have the right skills and information when you get those parts. So they are actively involved also in continuous educations for their customers. But you're right, everyone is kind of distracted with the tariff situation. But again, I would point out that if you're thinking about manufacturing of new cars, it's critical. The tier one manufacturers who make the parts in the assembly of a new car and the assembly plant are under extreme pressure right now. I'm not saying we're not as much in the auto care, but we're a little bit more resilient. It's not just in time manufacturing. There's a lot more alternative source of supply. And so we're able to reorganize a little bit better than we are in terms of the manufacturing of new cars. But tariffs, while a distraction, I think are also a great opportunity, because all of the efforts we're seeing right now in reducing interprovincial barriers, fantastic. Recently, the governor of Quebec said, we will now start to recognize Red Seal technicians in the province of Quebec. I'm not sure how we would have got there without the pressure.
I don't think there's any other way we would have seen that change. And
Yeah.
such a crucial change. And we look at the trades that we train, the healthcare workers, personal support workers, healthcare aides, continuing care aides. That's the same job in 3 provinces with 3 different names that are now talking to each other about how do we recognize your skills. And Doug Ford, again, has taken some drastic moves to say, we'll figure it out as we're down the path. But if you come here and you're a healthcare aide and trained in BC, we're going to put you to work as a PSW, and we're going to figure out what you're missing while you're working and build you up. Or maybe you're not missing anything, so let's get to work because we got needs. So we got to, in many ways, Mr. Trump has been a unifying force in our country for the better.
Yes.
There's the day-to-day drama of it all, but there's a lot of things that are changing, and that's important for us all. It's interesting what you just touched on. A lot of our colleges teach supply chain management, which is absolutely crucial in your sector. Your members are hiring our graduates to go to work on managing the supply chain of those parts. I'm always amazed. You take your car in to get fixed, and they say, hang on, we're going to get that part. It's in Montreal, but it'll be here this afternoon, and I live in Ottawa. So how integrated is that supply chain between all of the different dealerships and parts companies?
So I don't represent dealerships, but for sure, they're typically focused very much on their own in-house brands, right? And they will typically service vehicle in the 1 to 5 or 1 to 7-year-old vehicle, typically when your vehicle is under warranty. Our challenge in the auto care sector is you're going to serve all makes and models. And if you think about today's park of vehicles, just a few stats, there's over 26 million cars on Canadian roads. On average, just if you look outside your window, a vehicle is about 10 years old on average. Canadians keep their car longer. And what happened as a result of that is you have a very wide spread of years, makes, and models of vehicle. And those will change slightly based on geography, as an example. We tend to have more trucks in the east, in the west, as an example. And so all of these integrated supply chain got to know and identify what are the typical parts failure within a specific type of vehicle, establish where those vehicles are typically found, and predict in advance a bit when these parts will fail and order these parts in advance. And so it is likely then it's sort of predictive of the failure on your particular vehicle, and distributors in that region have already sort of planned in advance for that and stock these parts in advance.
So before we get a little personal with the questions we ask everybody, can you talk to me a little bit about, we talked about need, it's obviously a huge need, but what does employment, what does salary look like? What does a career look like in your sector? Because I'm going to go back to my conversations with the aviation and aerospace people. Incredibly lucrative careers and stable.
Yes, very stable type of employment for sure. Our sector is able to sustain, all seasons, so that's very stable. We performed a whole labor study, try to compare, and automotive technicians in Canada are paid slightly under what you would see in the construction, electrical, plumbing trades. So we might not be as competitive as we should be, but I will tell you that I found so many people with very successful careers as technicians in the supply chain and the capacity to evolve. So it's not just about being stuck in one particular career, but the capacity to grow within the industry is very attractive to many, I know. And one thing people don't realize is if you wish to become your own boss, you want to buy your own business, there's not only an aging population in terms of technicians, but there's also business owners who are now looking at the next generation. And the transition or the opportunity to buy a business is very strong in the auto care sector. So if you want to start your own business, this is another great way to do this in our industry. And those provide, again, great rewarding opportunities.
That's an interesting comment you make, because we're seeing that more and more. I happen to be in the restaurant business as well, but there's other businesses that we look at, other industries we look at, and that generation to generation thing is just not happening as much anymore in business. People are not going from one family to the other and passing it down, and son taking over the trade. So you're seeing that in your sector as well, obviously.
Yeah. So for sure, you get, again, the level of sophistication, investments in tools types, training, as we talk about, are pressure on businesses. But I'm going to go back to the analogy I did earlier about going into any small town in Canada and finding a repair shop, a parts store, and those will stay there and will need, the next generations of business owners. So those opportunities exist for sure for people looking to expand their career beyond, just being a tradesperson.
We always try to point out too, when we're talking about these kind of career opportunities and business opportunities for our students, as they train up to go on to new careers, we try and guide them into careers that look stable long-term. These are significant investments these business owners make that are your members, aren't they?
Yes.
Do you struggle at times with government and stakeholders understanding the risks that are being taken on a daily basis by your members?
Yes. I'm going to go back to my original comment about our government relations activities around the right to repair and the critical need of legislation that provides for the consumer's right to choose in an environment where it's becoming harder and harder to get these cars fixed because of technology that often don't need to be deployed in the way they are, where they're simply there to restrict your capacity to choose, where you go, bring you back to original manufacturers' locations or a dealership. And so that's critical, because the day that those local shops are no longer able to service your vehicle, that means you're going to have to drive longer distances. It means that the car you thought it could be fixed today suddenly takes 3 days, 4 days, a week, 2 weeks. And the vehicle provides critical infrastructure for people. If you're a family with one vehicle, that's critical to your needs. So we want to make sure that the local shop is able to fix that car. If not, that's going to really impact the populations in ways that the government doesn't quite often really capture or understand.
We run smaller institutions. We average our average student age is around 35 or 36. So I would actually think they're very well suited for heading into your industry. People who've taken a second chance, often it's their first chance at university or a career or post-secondary education kind of opportunity, because they didn't have that earlier. They went to work, they got family to deal with. Majority of our students have children already. So we have a different dynamic. So one of the things that we focus on in that is the key of having a mentor, the key of having somebody who guides you through the process. Sometimes it's someone in the class with you that's just in the same boat, and they mentor you by encouraging you to keep going. Do you have a great mentor in your life that's had a huge impact on your career?
Yeah, David was someone, as a precursor, I should say. I started as a technician myself. My background is in electronics. And so I was a technician working on a bench and in a back, shop. And David saw something in me and said, "I'd like for you to help me on this." And in fact, was providing training and support on some of the product we're manufacturing, and really supported me. And supported me. Also threw me a bit. Said, "Well, we'll see if he sink or swim," but really invested the time and effort to teach me about different opportunities, give me the opportunity to grow, and move me out of the back office into the front office, and from there just expanded my career. And then from there, so it's a long road to association management, but this was really a first step. And it's someone who recognizes in you your will to grow. I think you, in return, to show your dedications to take on those challenges and feel supported that, if you're going to make a mistake, it's okay. You got someone to support you there. And you sure did that a few times.
That's valuable to hear. I've been in this role for 4 years, and you've got to get passionate about it. You've got to dive in full steam and really own it. You've got that because you came from the area, but you can feel when someone's just pitching and not really loving it and not really appreciating what they do. And I just had to go to some graduations in some of our colleges and better understand the myths about our sector and what we do. But when you go to one of our graduations and you see a student who leans in and says, "That's the one who mentored me when I talked about mentoring, and that student got me through," and we're both in our mid-40s, and we're both now going to become personal support workers because we've immigrated to this country. We want to make a difference now. We can all have a little impact. Do you think Dave knows, it was David, I think, that he was your mentor?
I told him many times. That was a long time. It was a long time ago, but yes, for sure, I recognized that, and we kept in touch from time to time. So, despite the fact that I left that industry at one point to come to the automotive, but I want to go back to what you said, Michael. Passion. I said, what are the skills that I need? If I want to be automotive technician, is mathematics, is what is manual skills? Yeah, they're important, but caring, showing up as a person, and be passionate about what you do, I think trumps everything else. Everything else could be learned. But if you don't care, I don't know if you're going to be successful, even if you have the skills.
So we both deal with advocacy and federal government, provincial governments, and that's part of our roles. So I'm not sure on a daily basis whether either one of us would call ourselves successful. Because some days it is like feeling like you hit your head against the wall. Talk to me about a skill that has made you successful. Maybe it's passion, but something that you think has been that thing that makes JF successful at what he does.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to my background in electronics. It was something, talk about passion, and it stayed with me. So to this day, despite it has nothing to do with what I do every day, that's something that I've continued to expand on. And if you go back again to even in the business world and what we do, the evolutions of the tools, I will tell you that when the pandemic hit and we really had to transition to a virtual world, I was very fortunate to be someone who was already there. I was already using the tool, the technology, and that really gave me an edge as we entered through the pandemic, because using all these technology tools for me was not foreign. It was something that I already understood very well. And so if there's something that you know about and you are able to apply, you never know when these skills will become something that is critical to the role that you have.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I agree with you. And I keep going back to your little commentary earlier about the passion for it. You got to have a passion for it. If you don't have that, then nothing's going to change. Before we sign off, any other message that you might want to have delivered to a stakeholder or a student or one of our colleges? Do you want to just give your email address and phone number now so they can start calling you about partnerships? Or I think they'll find you through LinkedIn. But is there anything you'd like to say before we sign off?
Well, as I said earlier, we have often misunderstood the importance of the automotive sector because we often focused on manufacturing of new cars, which is critical to our economy. Let's never forget the auto care, which sometimes says the aftermarket, the automotive aftermarket, making sure it's not an afterthought. It's a wide employer, 500,000 people in the sector. We're in all places across Canada. It's rural or urban. And so if you're looking for a rewarding career, you want to live in the city, you want to live in the rural areas, there are opportunities for this industry throughout. So I think it's a great sector to explore. And if you're looking for a new career, that's the place to go.
Fantastic. That's what we're trying to do on this show, is to let people know about the careers that are out there. I just finished a 18 interview series with the crew of HMCS St. John's, a Navy frigate that's on its way from Halifax to Europe to in the Mediterranean for a 6-month mission. And to hear about all the different careers and opportunities in the Navy was quite interesting. And there's now we get to hear a little bit about your sector and some of the opportunities that exist to come work there. So we like to pass this on to our students and let them understand these opportunities. And I appreciate you taking the time. We've never met before in Ottawa, but I'm sure we will now. Now we can see each other and run into each other and connect up, and we will be in touch. So with that, I will leave this episode of the EdUp Canada podcast and thank JF Champagne from AIA Canada, who's joined us to talk about that sector and the opportunities that exist. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the EdUp Canada podcast. We release new episodes regularly, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you know when they are officially out. If you love this episode, please leave a 4 or 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts so that others can also discover how a set of skills can lead to success. Thanks for learning with us.